I'm so excited to be speaking with Larry the Cable Guy. Can't believe it.
Get it done.
Appreciate
Yes,
it, man. This is exciting.
Yes, sir.
Where are you at right now?
I'm sitting here at the house. We just got done. We ran took my boy up to the men's warehouse, and we were farting in the suits, and that's about it. Big day. We're back to the house.
Well, listen, we're going to be talking today a little bit about comedy, but mainly about our mutual buddy, Vic Henley, who we just came on the second anniversary of his passing. And a lot has happened in the comedy world in the past 2 years. In the past 2 days, a lot has happened.
Right.
But how did you know Vic Henley?
Well, I've known Vic forever. I met Vic, Jeff Foxworthy, of course, like my adopted brother, and Vic and Jeff hung out together all the time when I was coming up through the ranks. But we're all big Atlanta Braves fans, and so I had season tickets to the Atlanta Braves spring training games in Florida, and so Jeff and Vic, this is for anybody who's ever popular. So they'd come down and they'd stay for 2 weeks. One would headline 1 week, the other would headline the other week, and they'd just spend 2 weeks going to the Atlanta Braves spring training games. And we'd all sit together, and then that's how I met Vic through Jeff, and we just got to be buddies. And then, you just stay in touch. You're comedians, and you do a bunch of stuff together, and you work a bunch together, and you work a lot of the same clubs together, and when the Braves are playing, you call each other, and that's pretty much what we did. I remember, when the Braves won their first World Series ring in 1995. Called Jeff, and we both were crying, so happy. And then called Vic, he's crying, and we're just, and then of course college football. I'm a Nebraska fan. Of course, he's an Auburn fan. So every college football season, that's when the phone would start. How's your team look? Good. How's your team look? Good. So Vic would always, when he's on the road, he always made it a point to come through Lincoln during football season, and he'd come sit with me and my seats there in Lincoln, and just a good time, man. I had a great time. I root for Auburn only because of Vic,
Right.
And he root for Nebraska because of me, but the one team we both rooted for, though, were the Braves. I mean, we can recite any kind of Braves trivia question you can think of, and then also old country music, because he liked that. I did too. So we'd always get a kick out of. We both grew up watching Hee Haw, so we'd always do a obscure Hee Haw reference every now and then.
Yeah, that's kind of how we connected too, was through the country music.
Yeah, so that's how I met Vic many years ago, way back, I'd say 1986, 87.
Well, that was like the beginning of the stand-up comic renaissance.
That was kind of like the gold rush of stand-up.
He, when I first met him, I'll be honest, the name wasn't familiar, and I did some research. I'm like, hey, he's on David Letterman. That's cool. And then, it started.
I didn't even know he was a comedian, and that was even after seeing his act. I like it.
It was,
who'd laugh at that? Vic Henley.
Vic Henley would laugh at that. He would definitely laugh at that. Well, that we kind of the reason we're even speaking, and we lost him almost right at 2 years ago, and unexpectedly, and the world lost a great talent and a great guy. And I lost a friend, you lost a friend, but I honestly didn't realize how important, and I say that with air quotes, he was to the comedy world until I started seeing all the posts from folks like you and Ron White and Adam Sandler and folks who had worked with him through the years, because y'all were all, like you said, back in the 80s, comedy was sort of this new thing, and everybody was.
Yeah, people don't realize how connected, especially a lot of comics in their 50s are, because we all kind of came up together when we were, 23, 24, 25, maybe, like Adam and me and Vic, and Jeff was older than me, but not much, but he had a few year head start on me going on stage. But all those like Rob Schneider and all, we're all interconnected at some point. We've all either worked together or know people together, and we were a pretty tight knit bunch. It's not even like we hung out with them a lot. Like I never really hung out with Schneider and those guys, or Adam, but we all knew each other,
Right.
and it's almost like you'd see them one time every 4 years, but it was like you've known them forever, because you know the same gang of people that were, so it was, it was a whole different kind of world. I call it the gold rush of comedy. It was,
Absolutely.
it was a whole new different thing. We were kind of the new rock stars, but
Yeah.
we were all interconnected and intertwined at some point, just through clubs and through friendships. And, but Vic knew everybody. There's not many people that didn't like Vic. Vic was just a fun, down to earth, funny, happy go lucky cat, and it was almost impossible to not like him. And he was always very complimentary and always, he was just one of those comedy buddies that you came up with that you'll never forget. There'll never be another one like him. I know that.
Well, when I interviewed him, I asked him a lot of questions, and again, it was more of a conversation because we already knew each other. But I started digging deep and asking questions about the career and what it was like, and finally we got to a point where I said, "So what's off limits?" And and he was quick to say, "Nothing is off limits," and this was 2 years ago.
Yeah, no, nothing's.
And I was thinking today, it's like how much have things changed in the past 2 years? And I wonder if he would say the same thing right now.
Well, if you got a following, nothing's really off limits. If you got nothing to lose, nothing's off limits. It really kind of sucks. Just depends on who you are.
His argument was, if it's funny, it's funny. The best.
That's my argument too.
Yeah,
and my argument also for that is, if you don't like it, I've said this for years, comedy is the perfect free speech venue. If you don't like a comedian, don't go see the comedian. It used to be those days where, well, that guy sucks, I don't like him, or that guy's offensive, I don't want to go see that. That guy's rude. Then you just didn't go to see him. And that's the whole thing. But nowadays they can't do that. They gotta.
Y'all can't. How do things change?
It's the everybody gets a trophy, nobody gets offended generation, and that's what you got to deal with. If people would just speak up, but here's the problem, for some reason these small minority of people are leading around corporate America with a nose ring. They feel corporate America feels like they have to please this super loud minority of people that are completely unhinged and outrageous. I mean, it's not like it used to be,
No.
You used to not like a comic. You didn't go see him. It was like different kinds of soda. I don't like drinking that kind, but I like this kind. And you found your audience and you rolled with it. And if you got famous, some people would go, I don't get it. And other people go, I think he's funny. And then it just, that's the thing. If you don't like something, why even worry about it?
It's weird. I have a hard time. I'm 48. I couldn't turn on the TV growing up without seeing a guy on the stage with a brick wall behind him and a spotlight. And now today is like Joe Rogan is public enemy number one.
Well,
and Chris Rock is being slapped on stage. It's a weird time for comedians.
The thing is, it's just a double standard. Some comedians can get away with stuff, other comedians can't. It's just if you're one of the chosen ones that can get away with stuff, you can get away with stuff.
Right.
I mean, that's just the way it is. I mean, look, the other day I saw an interview with Snoop Dogg. I think Snoop Dogg's hilarious.
Yeah.
But he gave an interview with a lady, and she said, now that you're doing all these things and you're more in the public eye, something like that. She goes, do you have any regret for your lyrics and your songs and the way you talk about women. And he said, no, that was me. That's me. F them hoes, which was hilarious. It's like, yeah, stand your ground. I mean, I like it, and I don't have to listen to Snoop Dogg, but he said that. And the first thing, if I would have said that, or somebody else would have said that, that'd be the end of working for Disney. That'd be the end of, but what did it do for Snoop? It got him more corporate contracts.
Sure.
So it's a total double standard. Look, I don't worry about it. It is what it is. If you have a built-in following, the comics that already have a built-in following, who cares? And there's a lot of comics that are going on stage and doing what they want to do. You just have to defy it. You have to defy it, and you have to do what you want to do. And hopefully other comics will come to your rescue and hopefully say, well, look, it's a Bill Maher. I'm not, there's a lot of things I don't like about Bill Maher. His views were totally different, but he's been hitting the target enough for comedy. So if you're going to allow them to, change your act, then you allow that. If you don't allow it, you don't allow it. I'm not going to allow it. I'll do whatever I want on stage, and if they don't like it, they don't have to come to my show. So
I was going to ask you that.
Yeah, still some of us out there doing what we want to do and all that kind of stuff. I'll tell you, there's some things that I don't do anymore just for the sheer conviction. I don't think it's right to do, because you grow as a comic and you grow as a person. And it's like doing jokes like I used to do jokes about, mentally retarded kids. But I never thought really much of it because I worked with them when I was a kid. And we'd always laugh and stuff they did, and they were funny. I loved them. I went and did stuff with them. I worked with them, and I would do jokes, and I didn't really think anything of it because, I just didn't. And then I had my own kids, and then I started realizing, man, if one of my kids was like that, I wouldn't be offended by it, but I would be sad for my kid, and it would. So here's the thing about stuff like that. I had a heart change. In order to stop doing things like that, you need to change your heart to it. And I had a heart change, and I didn't want to do it anymore. And that's way better. It doesn't bother me if people do it. If they want to do it, that's their choice. If I don't think it's right, I'm not going to go see them. I'm not going to tell them to stop doing the joke, because here's the deal. Do you want somebody to stop doing their behavior because they actually have a change about it and they actually know they shouldn't do it? Or do you want them to not do it because they're forced to do it? They haven't really changed anything.
See, that's the thing. That's the thing right there.
Yeah.
I don't want anybody to change anything they say based on how they feel about what the outside world. If they change internally, that's okay. But comedians were the last hope for humanity. They still are. I really appreciate and respect comedians it goes way back. Comedians have always been controversial, but they've always been on the forefront of free speech and criticizing government and taking a point of view that a lot of regular folks have, but are afraid or don't have the platform to say it on.
And that's what it should be. And it's just the same old adage that I've said before. If you don't like the comic, don't go see the comic. Amen. If you don't like stand-up comedy, don't go see stand-up comedy. We're not making policy decisions. We're not politicians. We're just there to make laugh. And there's all different forms of comedy. There's guys like Carrot Top, and there's guys like me that do one-liners. There's guys that are political. That's the cool thing about stand-up. It's like soda pop. It's like beer, different flavors. And so if you can't ban a flavor just because you don't like it, somebody else likes that flavor. And that's how it should always be. But
it's America. That's America.
It's like I said before, though, when you have a bunch of corporate CEOs that are being drug around the nose and being led and told what to do by, 22-year-old college kids whose brains still aren't completely formed. That's why they're going to college. That's what you're going to get. So, I do my own thing, and I'll do it until they come for you, because that's all you can do. You have to stand up to it. If you don't stand up to it, then it'll be gone from you. So you have to stick up for it. And people that say, "Oh, comedy's not going anywhere," blah blah blah. Well, okay.
Oh, I think comedy's more important right now than it ever has been. Do you have a Vic Henley story or memory that you could share with us?
I got like 1,000 Vic Henley stories. I'll tell you one that I find hilarious, and this is totally Vic. He had a buddy that I think he was on a ranch. He got a job at a ranch in the middle of nowhere. I think it was either Alaska or Montana. I can't remember. I really can't remember what state it was. It might have been this big cattle ranch in Montana. He had nothing. There was no reception, and this is way before. This is way before the technology we have now. I mean, we had cell phones with that, VHS. This is back when we still have VHS tape players. Well, Vic he just wanted to watch stuff. He loved movies. So Vic would send him every year, Jeff and Vic would send him just a box of movies they'd seen. So they'd see a movie, put it in a box. So this guy, I think for his birthday, they would send him a huge box of movies. But what Vic would do was Vic took out the last 15 minutes of every movie because it was VHS tape. So he would take out the last 15 minutes and tape a little message. And at Christmas, I believe it was, the guy would get a box of VH1 tapes, and it was all the endings to all the movies that he had gotten for his birthday, and they were all labeled so he knew which one and where it was at so he could watch the ending. And they did it. I think they would do that to him every year. Vic would do that to him, and it was just a sick, cruel joke to a buddy of his that was in the middle of nowhere, but it was hilarious.
I can't stop laughing. Right, that is so Vic.
And then there was one other one that and whenever Vic would call, sometimes I would answer with, "What? I'm at the ball games, man's world." Just that's what I would say, and I say that because we were in the bleachers at a Braves game, and Vic's stomach is killing him. And we're at the ball game, and we're just in the bleachers, surrounded by everybody, and women there. Well, Vic just can't help. He rips one in the stands, and it's packed. It's shoulder to shoulder in there. And Vic hammers the loudest part I've ever heard of my life at the Braves game. And some people are laughing. And you hear some lady behind Vic go, "Oh, dude, that's gross." And he goes, "What? It's the ball game. It's a man's world." And everybody laughed. And it was just like, oh my gosh, that is the nastiest thing I've ever seen in my life. But I mean, there's just so many. I mean, but those are memorable. That was really memorable because sometimes I would answer the phone.
He would love that your favorite memory of him was a fart.
Well, absolutely. I mean, when you're a comic coming up in the 80s and the 90s, right. I mean, pretty much was ready to be talked about. It was fun. There's a lot of, there's been a lot of jokes since then, a lot of material, a lot of topics discussed. But back then it was all brand new digging ground. There was gold all over the place.
Right. Thank you, man. I mean, I'm in Natchez, Mississippi, Faraday, Louisiana. This is Larry country.
Absolutely. I love them all down there, and tell them I said Gator done. God bless America.
Well, let me plug any platforms or events or anything you got coming up.
Oh, you know what? I got, we got some new Cars features coming out on Disney Plus in September. People coming down on Disney. People coming down on Disney right now, so I don't know if I should announce that. But,
I know it's so no.
But here's the good news about my
still love Mater.
I'm in a world of cars, not a world of people. So they're not making tow trucks into motorcycles, so we're good.
Thank you so much.
You got it, brother.
All right, have a great day.
You too. Talk to you later. Bye.
All right, bye-bye.
Hey, this is Larry the Cable Guy. You are listening to my buddy, the Gator Man Show. And if you ain't listening to him, you're a communist. Get her done.